Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Jo Long, and I love to do this podcast for a few reasons. One, I want to inspire you to think about your genius and your expertise in a different way, because your genius and your expertise has the opportunity to influence other people and to teach people other things. Comes from my background as a teacher, communication consultant, and I love to tell those stories. And that's the second reason. I love to tell the stories and have you hear the stories of genius entrepreneurs that have created businesses out of their expertise, because you know that there's a pathway to do it. And today is no exception. We have the opportunity to hear Matt Zinman's story about his business, ZU Publishing. And Matt, welcome to the interview today. I'm excited to hear your story.
Hey, Shelby, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Why don't you start by just giving us not your elevator pitch, but give me an idea of who you are and your
Sure.
business and what you do.
Wonderful. Well, we are talking on my side from just north of Philadelphia, born and raised. I started my career in marketing communication, working for advertising, public relations, and branding agencies, and came through the ranks of those until I was a director of an agency in town. And then in 2002, I had an intersection in my life, becoming a single dad, and I had an opportunity to get a contract with a former client, which was Arm& Hammer. I'd worked with them for 6 years, and that really anchored me into business originally, and did that for a number of years. Now, in that profession, you're dealing as a professional services business. You're billing by the hour. There's only so many hours in the day in terms of wanting to get ahead. So I decided to take a turn, and I founded a nonprofit, ultimately became the nonprofit called the Internship Institute. And that was involved in mentoring programs and helping veterans in transition from active duty to civilian jobs and disadvantaged youth. So it wasn't just your traditional kind of experiential learning programming. And then things converged again right with the pandemic. For one, I published a book called Z-isms, Insights to Live By, and that's now the foundation of the current business I'm doing. And then because of the pandemic and everything shutting down, the nonprofit, hit the wall. No such programs were existing for a number of years. Now, looking back, it kind of had to happen. I was so tied to it, and I had a really good run with it, but it's like, this is my life's work. I'm so caught up in it. If not me, then who? All the things that you do to convince yourself. But it was really a good thing in the way that it happened. And following the book, I recognized that the concepts, the techniques in it don't lend themselves to be learned just by reading it or listening to it. Now, Z-isms, I should back up a half a step, are those life lessons that can only be learned through experience. And that's really what the book is about. It's that narrative around what your parents and school, don't teach you. And in following through with that, I had since developed about 40 hours of curriculum and learn by doing programs that I now provide as workshops, as courses, and foundationally for my speaking endeavors, which is really the direction I'm now very excited to be going in.
Yeah. Tell me more. I mean, because writing a book is no small task, and there's a lot of heart and soul that goes into that, and not only the time that it takes, but what did you want to inspire your audience to think differently about? That maybe we didn't learn everything that we need to learn in these places, so you got to learn through experience. But tell me a little bit more about that transformation that you wanted to inspire.
Sure. I think for anyone who wants to write a book, um, just start
Yeah.
and go from there. For my purposes, it was really based on a combination of life experiences. I mentioned being a single dad, certainly the entrepreneurial journey, the nonprofit. I was a caregiver. My mom went through a bad illness through my 20s, and so on and so forth. And there were some different things that came through those life experiences that I had been speaking to, but I didn't really hear people talking about them in the same way. So, for example, my chapter one is called Earned Confidence. And I think it really applies to your audience here as they are considering, for example, going out on their own, or whether that's writing a book or, some kind of a side gig, which is that from the coping side of life, every single one of us has been through everything we have. We all have our own journey in that way, but we've overcome it all, right? We're still standing. And so we have, through those experiences, proven to ourselves that we're entirely capable of overcoming whatever happens to us. And so realizing that it really challenges the idea, well, why would you worry? Why would you base any of your actions or emotions on anything that's not certain? Uh, you can just deal with the real, because that's what you've proven to yourself that you're able to do. And so from a coping standpoint, uh, that was foundational. And so when I went to go write the book, that among some other concepts were things that I really wanted to flesh out. And then I showed it to people, and what do you think of this? Is there really a book here? And it really was very, very well received, and I kept going. And on the other side of earned confidence, also I think applies to your listeners, your viewers, is overcoming imposter syndrome. In the same way of having that earned confidence. You may want to start something that is new to you, but you have various transferable skills and experiences that are going to apply, and you've achieved all kinds of things in your life, and so keep going, right? Achieve
Sure.
different things. So that's one example.
So it's dealing with all sorts of adversity and having the personal confidence to meet all those challenges.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so after you wrote the book, because I talk with people a few different ways. Some people write the book first and then think about the bigger impact of what their message is. But
Right.
other people, and the way I approach it, because I'm a professor, I work in lesson plan. That's how my mind works. And so I write the lesson plan or the outline, and then I'm like, oh, this is the strategy of how I could influence this audience and this audience and this audience. So it's a different same result, because it's all about influence and audience and how you want to build that momentum, but
Right.
it's a different process to go about that. So when you wrote the book, you were inspired to make this a bigger, I guess, offering. Is that right?
Actually, writing the book was something that I felt a passion to do. I was at the time in the thick of things with the nonprofit and running various grants, and
Sure.
uh, as it were, I not actually had not really planned on going much further with the book at the time. And it was the happening in and around the pandemic that helped me turn the ship and realize, well, where do I go from here? And I had a business coach, and was speaking to them about, really, how do I define, from a business standpoint, where to go from here. And they encouraged me to get into the curriculum and the workshops and just playing to my strengths in that way. And that's been a really good thing along the way. And I've, Shelby, I have really, through all of that curriculum work, been through every aspect and in depth around personal development, self-improvement. And now, as I'm getting into the speaking, and at the very heart of it all is, well, I'm not really just doing this to be motivational or inspirational. I'm focused on transformation. And what is that? What, from among all the various topics, are going to be the things that people are really going to be able to latch on to and want to keep doing. And in describing that, it's also, well, if I'm going to go out and do speeches, I can't do it all. I have to choose what's my number one or my number two signature speeches. That's, certainly what all speaking coaches tell you is,
Yeah.
narrow your focus. So I landed on two things that I believe are the two really underdeveloped skills that hold the greatest potential to enrich people's lives in various ways. And they are presence and resilience. And going back to, well, what are the things that those skills solve? The first is overthinking. And I don't believe that most people realize how much we're all in our own heads. And personally, I believe that overthinking may be the greatest source of unhappiness in people's lives, because we're always over here and, running through worries and assumptions and phantom conversations and just, ruminations. And the other is really around coping skills. And so when it comes back to resilience, we're all going to encounter the challenges in life. Naturally, resilience is going to be about making those bad things least bad. And when it comes to life enrichment and getting out of our own heads and engaging more in life in real time and presence and that enrichment, that's about really making as much good out of the best of what life has to offer. And I think as people work on those two skills and have those experiences, it's going to be noticeable. And that's what's going to encourage them to keep working at it, and in doing that, build those skills that will keep improving their life in both ways.
Yeah, you jumped to the what's next, or what's the next piece of your building your business of influence, and you talked about speaking a little bit. What do you envision that's going to be? Are you the next Tony Robbins that's going to be speaking to thousands and thousands of people? Is that the vision that you have for your, because now you're in that like mindset space too,
Sure,
of the
sure.
mindset and business building, and well, maybe not business building, but influence, which you
Yeah.
got to have money to be an influencer. So just thinking about that. What is your vision for that? Or
One
do
of
you
the
see
things,
yourself more in corporations or training? It sounds like training something that's in your genius, and you like that one-on-one piece too. So how does that all exist together?
well, I am doing quite a bit of training already and facilitation and that kind of work, and I enjoy it. And anything that is really putting me on the front line, impacting as many people as possible, is really what fulfills me the most. And it's one of the main reasons why I also want to get better and better at being on stages and seek those kinds of opportunities. Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins, and Brendan Burchard and
Yeah.
all those different figures. It was really important to me in writing the book and in developing all the content to do it in my own vacuum. I did not look at what anyone else was doing, and that has served me well in terms of the originality and the different messages that I bring, some of which I'm sharing here. So do I want to build an empire, in the way that those guys have, and Brene Brown and those sorts of people? I don't know. In a way, I don't necessarily see myself being that big. But you never know if it's gonna lead to that. Right now, I'm focused on just staying in my zone of growth, and with the hope that the growth takes me as far as it'll go. Speaking to me is really the most challenging intersection of professional mastery intersecting with personal experience. And so I enjoy the challenge of it, but I have so much more to learn and to get better at, and the only way to do that in this case is to do it.
Is to have the experience.
Have the experience. So
Yeah.
getting on stages and doing corporate. To answer your question, yes, I see myself on the conference circuit, doing for corporations. Uh, the content that I speak to certainly gets in areas of mental health as well. I'm, part of my journey has been in overcoming burnout, in managing depression since my teens. So that's really close to my heart in those experiences, and how to do that. And also women's groups in that
Yeah.
regard. So that's really my niche.
Sure. No, it's just, and you don't have to have an answer to that question, but it sounds like your business is you want to reach people and you want to transform people. And whether that happens in corporations or whether that happens in a conference, it's all yours. That's how you do it. And you'll open that door when it comes to you. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, you can't get from A to being Tony Robbins,
No, not overnight.
as easily.
Well, okay.
So, I'm
And
not opposed to that vision, but I'm definitely staying in my current zone of, what's next, and what's within reach. And then once I get there, I'll keep reaching.
well, a question I like to ask the genius entrepreneurs that have published and speaking and started to develop that business of influence, I like to ask them of what is your piece of advice to people out there that might be going through a similar thing? How can I make something of this? I want to get this message to the world. I want to inspire other people. What would you say to inspire them to take that step to do that?
Yeah, I think of all the different concepts that and skills, which is really the focus of, underdeveloped skills, looking at things that are skills that maybe traditionally people don't see as them, earned confidence, taking inventory, really believing in yourself as that being foundational. The other, Shelby, is self-kindness. And in the realm of personal development, self-kindness is really special because when someone is dedicated to say, I want to work on myself, whatever that is, and I'm here, I want to feel better about myself. It could be my confidence. It could be anything, but it can be very difficult to get from here to there because self-improvement is just, it's very nebulous. It can be really vague. And how do I make progress? And did I make progress? And then you fall back and then you get discouraged. But the thing with self-kindness is that it's binary, which is to say you're either kind to yourself or you're not kind to yourself. And in that regard, it draws a line that gives you a barometer for whatever kind of self-belief and improvement is part of your journey. So the first question, the buy-in here, is for someone to ask themselves, well, is there any reason why I should be anything less than kind to myself? And that's meant to be a rhetorical question, but some people really struggle with that. And if that's the case, then they really, whatever that struggle is, they know where to begin. But once you buy into that, that really becomes your guiding light. It helps you draw the line that your inner critic can't cross, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. So I really encourage people to look at the things that we're speaking to here: earned confidence, self-kindness, recognizing how much they're overthinking, looking at resilience and and working at being more present as those things that are often viewed as these defaults. I'm just this resilient because I've been through this, or I think I'm more present than I am, but really tune into it like it's a skill and develop it. I think they're going to get traction once they realize in taking notice to, in that progress.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I haven't read your book yet, so I'm looking forward to listening to it. I think that will be really fun to be able to hear that and to see the content. Where can our audience find you? Our LinkedIn website?
Well,
Give us all that info, and I'll be sure
yeah,
to include show notes too.
thank you. Thank you very much. Well, mattzinman.com is my go-to, right? That's my main site. To your comment, the audiobook is free. The ebook is also free to download. And certainly the paperback is available. I'm working on a second book, and we'll see
Exciting.
where that is. Maybe next year. As these concepts and techniques continue to evolve, all that curriculum is gonna, turn into that. So, on LinkedIn, I publish a newsletter called The Bright Side that might interest people to subscribe to. That goes more in depth on some of the concepts here. All the things I've talked about so far are covered in different articles. I think I'm on issue 22, and it really embeds a lot of practical activities for people to get better at these kinds of things. So The Bright Side's my current passion project. Insights to Live By, my podcast, is on episode 116 or 17. So there's no shortage of content there as well. So have at it. I mean, we don't do this kind of work for it to catch cobwebs, and hopefully people will
No,
take to it and benefit from it, right? That's really, why I do what I do.
absolutely. Well, that's great. Matt, I look forward to reading your insights and discovering more about that, and also seeing where your speaking thing goes. I think that's going to be really exciting to be a part of. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes as well.
yeah, that'll be
And
great. And I think as a speaker and influencer and author, that's kind of how there's no set path for it. It's like one opportunity might open the door to something else. And I mean, about, I mean, I'm assuming that, I mean, confidence and lack of self-doubt and imposter syndrome all plays into that networking and business building, and those concepts are all so important, especially when you're developing a business where you're influencing others. So
It does. It does. I just, anyone who wants to do that or write the book or speaking, there's any number of challenges along the way, things that might discourage them. But these things are effortful, and law of attraction isn't going to make them happen. You really have to keep at it. And so I just, believe in yourself, and you'll catch a break. It's inevitable if you don't stop.
right. That's a great piece of advice.
So thank you, Shelby. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody for joining, and reach out if I can be of any help to anybody.
Thank you for giving us all those insights. I look forward to connecting with you more. And to all of you potential genius entrepreneurs out there, just keep going. Got to have the experience. And I look forward to exploring more stories with you to inspire you to take the next step in your business and the influence in your life. So we will see you next time.